3 true first date horror stories. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our stories. Tonight, we're diving into 3 absolutely chilling first date encounters that took a dark and disturbing turn. These are stories about meeting someone who seemed perfect, charming, and normal, until things got seriously wrong. The kind of wrong that makes you question whether you really know anyone at all. First dates are supposed to be exciting, right? A little nerve-wracking, sure, but ultimately a chance to meet someone new. But what happens when that person isn't who they claim to be? What happens when the smile across the dinner table masks something sinister underneath? Stick around as we explore 3 true stories of first dates gone horribly, horribly wrong. Trust me, after hearing these, you might think twice before meeting a stranger alone. Let's start with our first story. Story 1. The parking lot. Sarah was 26 years old, working as a graphic designer in Portland. She was the kind of person who was careful about her safety. She told her friends where she was going. She shared her location on her phone. And she always did a background check on anyone she met online before agreeing to meet them in person. So when she matched with someone named David on a dating app, she did everything right. She looked him up. His profile seemed legitimate. He had a normal job, his photos looked genuine. No red flags popped up in her initial searches. They talked for about a week before he asked her out. "I know a great Italian place downtown," David had messaged her. "They have this amazing tiramisu. You'll love it," Sarah agreed. They set up a time for Saturday night at 7 o'clock. The restaurant was in a busy part of the city. Lots of foot traffic, well lit. Safe. She felt good about it. Saturday came and Sarah got ready. She wore a nice dress, did her makeup, and felt genuinely excited. It had been a while since she'd been on a date. When she pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant at 6:55, she texted her friend Emma. "Here, wish me luck." Emma responded immediately. "You got this. Call me after." Sarah grabbed her purse and headed toward the restaurant entrance. That's when she saw him. David was standing by the hostess stand and he looked different. Not terrible, but different from his pictures. His photos had been taken from far away, from angles that made him look thinner. In person, he was heavier. His hair was receding more than it appeared online. Sarah felt a small pang of disappointment, but she pushed it aside. Catfishing was annoying, but it happened all the time. Maybe his personality would make up for it. "Sarah," he said, smiling as she approached. "Hi, David. Good to meet you." They shook hands and his grip was a little too firm, held a little too long, but again Sarah told herself she was being paranoid. They got their table, ordered food, and started talking. The conversation started off normal enough. David asked about her work, her family, her interests. But as the night went on, Sarah noticed something odd. When she talked, he didn't really listen. His eyes would glaze over and he'd interrupt her mid-sentence to talk about himself. He talked about his ex-girlfriend constantly. How crazy she was, how she'd done him wrong, how he was still getting over her. Red flag. But Sarah was polite. She smiled. She laughed at his jokes. She tried to steer the conversation to lighter topics. She kept thinking about the tiramisu he'd mentioned, telling herself that if the dessert was good, maybe that would salvage the evening. When it came time to order dessert, Sarah got the tiramisu. David ordered coffee. As they waited for the dessert to arrive, David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his whole demeanor changed. His jaw clenched. His knuckles went white as he gripped the edge of the table. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked. "Fine," he said curtly. But it wasn't fine. His leg was bouncing under the table, shaking so hard that Sarah could feel it vibrating through the floor. He kept checking his phone, his anger visibly building. The tiramisu arrived, but Sarah's appetite was gone. The date had taken a sharp turn into uncomfortable. She was now very aware of her surroundings, making sure she knew where the bathroom was, where the exit was, who was around them. "I'm sorry," David said suddenly. I'm not having a good night. My ex just texted me saying she's going out with someone new. I can't believe she'd do this to me." Sarah felt a wave of pity wash over her, but it was quickly replaced by another wave of unease. This man was unraveling in front of her, over his ex, on a first date with a stranger. "I'm really sorry to hear that," Sarah said carefully. "But maybe I should—" "No," David interrupted, reaching across the table and grabbing her wrist gently but firmly. "Don't go, please. I need someone to talk to right now." Sarah's heart started racing. She gently pulled her wrist away, and to her relief he let her. But his eyes had a desperate quality to them now, something she hadn't noticed before. "David, I think it's best if we call it a night," Sarah said, keeping her voice steady. "I hope things get better with your ex, but I don't think we're a good match." He stared at her for a long moment, and Sarah swore she could see him cycling through emotions. Anger, sadness, something else she couldn't name. "Okay," he finally said quietly. "Okay." They split the bill. The whole interaction felt cold and tense. David barely said anything as they walked toward the exit. Sarah was texting Emma with one hand, her keys already in her other hand, ready to get to her car as fast as possible. But as they reached the parking lot, David grabbed her arm again, more forcefully this time. "Wait," he said. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah's blood went cold. They were in the parking lot. It was getting dark. There weren't many people around anymore. "Let go," she said, her voice suddenly sharp and commanding. David released her arm, looking confused and hurt at her sudden change in tone. "I just wanted to know if you'd give me another chance," he said. "I know I wasn't the best company tonight, but I promise I can be better. I promise." Something about the way he said it sent shivers down Sarah's spine. It wasn't a request. It was almost like a threat disguised as a plea. "No," Sarah said firmly. "I'm leaving." She walked quickly to her car, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel him watching her. As she got to her car and fumbled with her keys, she glanced back and saw him standing in the parking lot, completely still, just watching her drive away. Sarah reported the incident to the dating app and to her friends. But what really got to her, what still gets to her, is something she discovered 3 days later. She was doing some deeper searching on David's social media, just out of curiosity and unease, when she found his Instagram. Most of his posts were public, and there, scrolling through his photos, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There were pictures of his ex-girlfriend, dozens of them, candid shots of her at the grocery store, at her workplace, getting out of her car, pictures she couldn't possibly have known he was taking. Sarah immediately reported all of it to the police. But by the time they investigated, David had deleted everything and disappeared. He matched with and went on dates with at least 4 other women from that same dating app, before disappearing entirely. To this day, Sarah doesn't know if David was just deeply obsessed with his ex, or if there was something more sinister going on. What she does know is that the person who sat across from her at that restaurant wasn't really the person from those photos. And the question that keeps her up at night is, was any of it really him at all? Story 2. The coffee date. Jake was a 28-year-old accountant living in Chicago. He wasn't particularly active on dating apps, but his coworkers kept bugging him about it, saying he spent too much time alone. So he finally downloaded one and started swiping. He matched with a woman named Madison. She was pretty, smart, worked in marketing, and they had genuinely good conversations. Unlike a lot of matches, Madison and Jake actually talked about real things. Not just flirting and surface-level stuff, but actual conversations about life, dreams, fears. After 2 weeks of texting, Jake felt like he actually knew her. When Madison suggested they meet in person, Jake was excited. They decided on a coffee date at a busy Starbucks in the middle of downtown. Safe, public, easy to escape if needed. The classic first date setup. The morning of the date, Jake was nervous. He showered, changed his shirt 3 times, and arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. He grabbed a table by the window where he could see her coming and ordered himself a coffee to calm his nerves. At exactly 2 p.m., she walked in, and Jake's stomach sank. It wasn't Madison. Not really. Or rather, it was Madison, but she looked completely different from her pictures. Her pictures had shown a woman who was fit, attractive, stylish. In person, she was significantly overweight. Her clothes didn't fit properly, and her hair looked unwashed. Now, Jake wasn't a shallow person. But there's a difference between someone looking different from their photos and someone looking completely different. This was the latter. Madison spotted him and walked over, smiling. "Jake?" "Yeah, hi," Jake said, standing up to greet her. "It's good to meet you." She sat down across from him, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Jake could see the recognition in her eyes. She knew he was disappointed. It was written all over his face, and he hated himself for it. I know, Madison said, looking down at her coffee. "My pictures are old. I've gained weight. I wasn't expecting this to go anywhere, so I didn't really update them." Jake felt bad. He genuinely did. "No, it's cool," he lied. "You look great." They talked for about an hour. Madison was actually funny and smart in person, just like she'd been over text. But there was a barrier now, an awkwardness that hadn't existed before. Jake was acutely aware that this was not who he'd been talking to. This was someone else, someone who had misrepresented herself. As the date was winding down, Madison asked Jake if he wanted to go grab dinner. Jake made an excuse about having to get home early. "Oh, come on," Madison said, her voice taking on an edge. "We're having a good time, aren't we?" "Yeah, but what?" Madison's eyes flashed. "But I'm not pretty enough. But I don't look like my pictures." Jake felt uncomfortable. "Madison, it's not that. I just have plans. You're disgusted by me," she said quietly. "No, I'm not," Jake said. And he wasn't, not really. But he was disappointed. And he didn't want to pretend to be interested in something he wasn't. Madison grabbed her coffee cup and took a long drink. Then she set it down slowly, deliberately. "You know what's funny?" she said. "I was actually going to tell you something today. Something important." Jake waited. "I lied about more than just my pictures," Madison continued. "I lied about a lot of things, actually. My job, my age, my name, everything." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean you lied about your name?" "Not my name," she corrected. "Sorry, my age. I'm not 26. I'm 34. That was a significant lie, but it didn't seem like the most important one. "Why would you lie about that?" Jake asked. Madison smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Because men don't want to date women my age. They want younger women. They want women who look like the pictures I posted, not who I actually am." "Then why catfish people? Why come on a date if you know they're going to be disappointed?" Madison leaned forward. "Because," she said slowly, "I wanted to see how you'd react. I wanted to know if you were one of the good ones or just another shallow asshole." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Something about this conversation was making him very uneasy. "Well, I should probably get going." "I'm not done," Madison interrupted. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She showed him the screen. It was a picture of Jake. A very clear, high-resolution photo of Jake taken without his knowledge. He was at his apartment, visible through his window. Jake's blood went cold. "What the hell is this?" "Insurance," Madison said calmly, putting the phone away. "I take pictures of all my first dates, just so I have something to remember them by, in case they ever forget me." "How did you get that picture?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I followed you home," Madison said simply, "after we matched. I was curious about where you lived. I wanted to see if you were the kind of guy who was worth deceiving or not." Jake stood up abruptly. "I'm leaving." "Wait," Madison said, grabbing his wrist just like David had grabbed Sarah's. "I'm not a crazy person. I promise. I wanted to know if you were real, you know? Everyone on these apps is fake. Everyone's pretending to be someone they're not. I just wanted to see if any of them actually cared enough about me to see past the pictures." Jake pulled his wrist away. "That's not okay, Madison. That's not okay at all." He left the coffee shop, his heart racing. He went straight to the police and filed a report. The officer he spoke to seemed to take it seriously, but she also warned him that unless Madison tried to use the pictures to blackmail him or harass him further, there wasn't much they could do. Jake blocked Madison on the app and deleted his account, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The realization that this woman had been inside his personal space, had taken photographs of him without his knowledge. It violated something deep inside him. 3 weeks later, he got a message from an unknown number. It was a video. It showed Jake in his apartment completely unaware. The video had been taken from outside his window. At the bottom of the screen was a timestamp showing it had been taken the day after their coffee date. The message with the video said simply, "I can't stop thinking about you." Jake immediately reported it to the police, changed his locks, and installed a security system. Madison was never found or prosecuted. Her profile disappeared from the dating app, but Jake still gets occasional messages from unknown numbers, photos of his apartment, sometimes photos of him going to work or coming home from the gym. And the scariest part? He has no idea if it's still Madison, or if she sold his information to someone else, someone who might be just as obsessed with him as she was. Story 3. The restaurant. This last story is the one that still hasn't been fully explained. Even now, a year later, people are still trying to figure out what really happened. Emma was a 24-year-old teacher in Denver. She was bubbly, friendly, the kind of person who saw the good in everyone. Her friends used to joke that she was too trusting, that she needed to be more cautious about who she met online. Emma didn't really care about their warnings. She believed that most people were good, that if you approached the world with openness and kindness, the world would reflect that back to you. She was wrong. Emma matched with a guy named Michael on a dating app. He was handsome in a conventional way. He said he was a lawyer. He was well-spoken, educated, cultured. They messaged for about 3 days before he asked her out. "There's an amazing rooftop restaurant downtown," Michael had written to her. "The view of the city at sunset is incredible. I'd love to share it with you." Emma was thrilled. A rooftop restaurant? That sounded romantic and sophisticated. She was planning to wear a nice dress, do her hair and makeup, maybe impress this guy. She told her friend Jessica that she was going on a date and sent her Michael's profile screenshot, just in case. Jessica looked at the profile and said, "He's cute. You be careful though, okay? Bring your phone, keep the ringer on, and check in with me when you get home." "You worry too much," Emma said, but she smiled. She appreciated having a friend who cared. The day of the date arrived. Emma dressed up, felt good about herself, and drove to the restaurant. It was a Friday evening, and the place was packed. Emma arrived about 10 minutes early and checked in with the hostess. "I'm meeting someone for dinner," Emma said. "I'm not sure if they've arrived yet." "Michael Thompson." The hostess looked at her computer and shook her head. "No one by that name has checked in yet, but I can add you to the list." Emma took a seat in the waiting area and kept an eye out for Michael. The minutes ticked by. 6:55, 7:05. He was a little late, but not unusually so. At 7:10, Emma called Michael. The phone rang, and he didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Hey, I'm here. Just let me know when you arrive. She tried again at 7:15, no answer. Emma was starting to feel anxious. She'd been stood up before, but it still stung. She was about to text Jessica to let her know when a man approached her. "Are you Emma?" he asked. Emma looked up. This was not Michael. This man was older, maybe in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a strange expression on his face. "Yes," Emma said cautiously. "Michael couldn't make it," the man said. "He sent me instead." Emma's stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. "What do you mean he sent you?" "He asked me to tell you that he got held up at work and couldn't make the date. But he wanted you to still enjoy yourself, so he asked me to buy you dinner." Emma stood up immediately. "That's not necessary. I'm going to go." "Wait," the man said, grabbing her arm. "Please, Michael paid for a reservation. He'd be very upset if you didn't at least stay for a drink." Emma pulled her arm away. She was now very aware of the crowd around them, the normal bustle of the restaurant. She was afraid, but she was also surrounded by people. That was good. "I'm leaving," she said firmly. She walked quickly toward the exit, her hands shaking. Behind her, she could hear the man calling out, "Emma, wait." "I'm supposed to," but she didn't wait. She got to her car as fast as she could, locked the doors, and drove away. Her hands were shaking so badly that she could barely grip the steering wheel. She called Jessica immediately. "Em, are you okay?" Jessica answered on the first ring. "Can you come to my apartment now?" Emma's voice was shaking. "Something really weird just happened." Jessica agreed, and 20 minutes later she was at Emma's place. Emma told her everything. About Michael not showing up, about the older man, about how he'd grabbed her arm. Jessica immediately told Emma to report it to the police. So Emma did. She gave them all the information she had about Michael, including his profile, his phone number, his pictures. What the police found was disturbing. There was no Michael Thompson who matched the description or profile picture. The phone number Michael had given her was a burner phone that was purchased 2 days before their first message. The pictures on his profile were stolen from a man's LinkedIn page. And when they looked at the restaurant's security footage from that evening, they found something even more chilling. The older man who had approached Emma in the restaurant, he hadn't just appeared by coincidence. There were multiple security camera angles showing him waiting in the restaurant for 2 hours. He'd been watching Emma the entire time she was there. And after she left, he'd checked his phone, received a text message, and then he'd gotten up and walked quickly toward the restaurant's back exit. The police were never able to identify him. When they traced Michael's profile, they found that it had been created using a VPN, making it impossible to determine the true location of whoever created it. The fake photos, the burner phone, the whole thing was an elaborate setup. But setup for what? Robbery? Assault? The police still aren't entirely sure. But what they did discover was that there had been 7 other women who had matched with a Michael on the same dating app in the past 6 months. The profile pictures were different in each case, stolen from different men, but the pattern was identical. Meet for a date, stand the woman up, send in an older man to approach her. In 2 of the cases, the women had gone on with the dates anyway, trusting the older man's story. One of them woke up 2 days later in a hospital with no memory of what had happened to her. The other woman has never been found. Emma never found out what happened to her because she trusted her gut and left. But she knows that if things had gone differently, if she'd been more trusting, if she'd let that man buy her a drink, the outcome could have been very different. To this day, there are still active discussions on true crime forums about what the actual endgame was. Was it trafficking? Was it something else? Nobody knows. Michael never reappeared. The older man was never identified, and the case remains officially unsolved. Emma deleted all her dating apps and doesn't really date anymore. She says that the experience taught her that sometimes Her instinct that people are good needs to be balanced with the reality that not everyone's intentions are pure. Sometimes the world is darker than you want to believe. And that's our 3 stories of first dates gone horribly wrong. 3 encounters that started with hope and excitement, but turned into something twisted and dark. What do these stories have in common? They show us that sometimes the person you're meeting isn't really the person you've been talking to. Sometimes people have much darker intentions than you could ever imagine. And sometimes the safety measures we put in place, telling a friend where you're going, meeting in public places, video calling beforehand, those things might save your life. If you're ever going to meet someone from online, please be careful. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't worry about being polite. Don't worry about hurting someone's feelings. Your safety is more important than anyone's comfort. Thank you for sticking with me through these 3 chilling tales. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. And feel free to comment below with your own experiences or thoughts about dating app safety. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next video.